Yes guys, welcome back to the FunBikes YouTube channel. I'm Finn and today I'm going to be showing you the build and assembly process for our FunBikes VIPER 125. So you can go from looking like this to this. Let's hit this thing out of the box and the crate. So guys, for this assembly you are going to need a pair of wire cutters, a knife, 8mm spanner, a 10mm spanner, a 13mm spanner, 14mm spanner, a 17mm spanner, a 5mm Allen key, one big ratchet, a 24mm socket, a 21mm socket, a crosshead screwdriver. So guys, as you can see, we've now got the VIPER out of the crate and onto a stand. And now I'm going to show you what came in the box for the VIPER and what it'll be used for. So starting out, you receive 4 tyres, wheels tyres, or front nose plastics. You receive tube progressors, your rear bull bar, your front bull bar, so a parts bag. So I'll now run you through in detail so you know everything in here and what it'll be used for. In your parts bag you'll get a handlebar cover, some wheel caps, your bar pad and bar pad cover. You receive some tools for this assembly. These tools will get you through the assembly, but if you do have your own tools, I do recommend using that. You'll receive 2 top clamps and 2 bottom clamps. You'll receive 4 bolts for your handlebars. You'll receive a load of split pins for the assembly. Finally, you'll receive your owner's manual, which will explain how to take care of this quad and keep it in top performance. Now let's start with the assembly. So guys, starting off with your assembly, the first thing we're going to be doing is your handlebars. Nice and simple. What you're going to need is your 4 hubs from earlier, with 2 top and 2 bottom, your 4 bolts from earlier, and a 10mm spanner. So start off, and I'm going to grab 1 top clamp and 1 bottom. You can see the difference here, as these have got grooves on and these are completely flat. So this one here will be your top clamp and this one will be your bottom. You can also grab 2 of the bolts. So come over to the handlebar, you want to grab your bottom clamp, and your bottom clamp will line up with these grooves here. So when you flip your handlebars over onto the bottom clamp, they should sit just under those grooves there. And you put your top clamp on. When you've got your top clamp on, you want to grab a bolt and just screw it in so it's finger tight. Send the top hole. Like so. So now we can do the other side. Do the exact same process. So now grab your 10mm spanner and still keeping your clamps in the grooves. You want to make sure your handlebars are perfectly in between the 2 bolts on the clamps. So when you look directly down, it should be perfectly in the middle. And when they are, you can start tightening. Like that. And once they're all tight, you can give them a little push on the handlebars. As you can see, they're not moving. And with that, your handlebars are now installed. So guys, moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be sorting out your front shock system here. Only 2 parts to do, which will be your front shock itself and your track rod here. So all you're going to need for this is a 17mm spanner, a 13mm spanner, and a 14mm spanner. And finally, you will need a split pin. So starting off, we'll do your front shock. You want to take out this bolt here. And you want to line up the rear front shock with the hole. You can just knock down on the frame and it should pull it down like that. And once you've got it perfect, it should slide straight through easily, no problems. Then you can put your nut on the other side. You want to grab the 13 and 14mm spanner. Your 13 will be this side here and your 14 will be here. So now you just want to make sure this is nice and tight. Like so. So once that's tight, you're now going to move on to your track rod here. Now this is nice and simple. You just want to push your brake on twist it round, and as you can see on the back here, try and show you, this block missing here, this will slide onto this block here. Now you know where that's going to go. You can now pull it off, take your nut off with the washer. So put them to the side for now. So now you can, so your track rod should slide this hole right here. You might have to move your brake to line up the hole, but once you get it through it, if you give it a wiggle, should loosen it up a bit, should allow it to slide all the way through. Like so. Now that's through, you want to put the washer and your nut back on the bottom, like so. Again, you want to get this finger tight. Now, grab your 17mm spanner. Make sure this is nice and tight. As this is a castle nut, like I said, you will need a split pin, so you want to ensure that your nut lines up with the hole on the bolt. As you can see here, it should look like this. So then, slide your split pin through and wrap it round like that. This just ensures that this nut won't come off, it's nice and sturdy. For now, as previously mentioned, you can slide your brake onto the block, like so. So now we could do the exact same on the other side. So now we've done this side, you'll have to do it the same on the other side, but don't worry, it's the exact same steps, so just follow what I've just told you. So guys, moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be installing your front nose plastics. That's simple, all you'll need is a 5mm Allen key. So if you come over to the front here, you'll see this little screw. You'll also see these 6 little gaps. So the 6 gaps are going to clip in here, and that little screw is going to go through here. So first step, you're going to want to take this out. I want to make sure this little bracket is sat over the hole. Now what we can do is we want to line up all 6 of the clips. You kind of want to lift the front of the plastic up. Can take a few tries, it can be quite fiddly. Just like that, nice and easy. So now we can grab, screw in your 5mm Allen key again. I'll screw that in. Make sure it's tight. Not too tight, but just so we know it's not moving anywhere, like that. So I got that installed installed. So now we can move on to the next part of the assembly process. So while we're here, we're now going to move on to your front bull bar. So moving all the way down here, you're going to see 2 bolts here. You've got a nut and bolt. So all you're going to need is a 10 and a 13mm spanner. First step is going to be taking these bolts out. Nice and easy. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. And then take these top ones out. So now you can grab the front bull bar and line up these 2 gaps here with the bottom holes, and then your front top ones with the side, just to the side. So now you want to screw, get in a few threads, same with the right one, and that should hold your bull bar still. It's a bit easier to work on at the top. For now, grab the other 2 bolts, and for now we're just going to put them through the holes. Then you can grab your nuts, and then the nuts will just go on the other side, like so. So now you can grab your 2 spanners. First one you're going to need is your 10. We'll start down here at the bottom. You just want to make sure these are nice and tight. Simple as that. Once you've got the bottom too tight, we can now grab our 13mm spanner, which will be on the nuts on the inside. And again, make sure they're nice and tight. Once they're tight, give it a little wiggle, and as you can see, your front bull bar is now nice and installed. So guys, moving on to the next part of your assembly, we're going to be doing your footrest. So for this, you're going to need a 10mm spanner, 5mm Allen key. So first step, as you see here, you've got 3 bolts up here, you've got 4 bolts here, and you've got 3 bolts here. You can't see that, but trust me, you can see the bumps here. So first step we're going to want to do is take all of these out. So now you've got all the bolts out, we can now grab your footrest. I'm going to sit it here. So these plastics are going to sit in this crevice on both sides. Should look like like that. So the first ones we're going to get back in, going to be the bottom ones here. So just want to get them in, and put all 4 in before any. This just helps keep the foot plate in place, so then we can get the other 6 bolts in a lot easier. And the reason why I'm putting the nuts and washers on this end is just because the foot plate one's popping back up. So if it is popping back up, just put a nut on it and hold it down again. So now you've got all 4 of the bolts in. You can now go around and put the washer and nut on the other ones that you haven't, like so. And now we'll grab the bolt with the rubber washer, and this will go through here. A nut on the other side. And again, for this side over here. So now you've got all the bolts in, we can just go around and tighten them with your 5mm Allen key and your 10mm spanner. So now you've got all of these bolts nice and tight. See, the footwell is nice and secure. You're going to want to do the exact same steps on the other side, and when that's done, we'll then move on to the next part of your assembly. So guys, moving on to the next part of the assembly, we're going to be installing your rear bull bar. So for this, you're going to want to grab your rear bull bar and a 10mm spanner. So we'll come down to the back here, and here you can see there's a bolt here, and there'll be 2 exact same place on the other side. The first thing you're going to do is take them out. So as you can see, there's 1 longer bolt, then the other 3, and that's going to be the one that goes through the exhaust, through the bung, through the rear bull bar, and back into the frame. So, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to grab rear bar on the long bolt, and you're going to want to pull off the rubber bung. So guys, now you've got all the bolts out, you're going to want to make sure your bar is sat like this on the quad. And I'm going to grab one of your smaller ones, slide it on, and we're just going to get it in a few threads this side, and same with the one that will be level here, like so. So guys, now we've got the 2 bolts in on the left side, we can now grab our other small bolt, and we'll get that in this side. Just want to make sure it's in a few threads. So now you can grab your rubber bung, pull the exhaust back, slide it in there, and you just slide your bowl through, get it through the exhaust bung. Once it's through the exhaust bung, you can then line it up into the rear bull bar, like so. And now we're at another issue. So now, once you get that in, you want to make sure it's nice and tight. Now make sure all the bolts are nice and tight. So now you've got that all nice and tight, we can now move on to the next part of your assembly process. So guys, moving on with your assembly, we're now going to be doing your wheels, all 4 of them. So for the front, you're going to want a nice big ratchet and a 21mm socket, and on the rear, you're going to want a 24mm socket. You'll also need 1 split pin per wheel. So first step I'm going to do, I'm going to take this nut off on this spacer. Okay, open up. Maybe 2 spacers. We'll get the big one and the smaller one. So now what we're going to do, and I'm going to grab your front wheel, and the way we know it's your front wheel is because if you look here, it's just a circle, but on the rear, which I'll show you in a minute, that is splined. So you just want to slide this on. You also want to make sure your brake, as previously mentioned, is sat on that block, like so. Now what you want to do is you want to put the big spacer on, then the little spacer, and then your nut. So now your ratchet, you want to make sure this is nice and tight. And again, this is a castle nut, so you will need to make sure you line up the holes. So now you want to slide your split pin through, just like so. Give it a little tap. So now I recommend using a pair of wire cutters for this, just because the split pins can be quite hard to bend, and they can hopefully. Like so. So now we can move on to the rear wheel. So it would be the exact same situation. The only difference is we'll be using the 24mm socket instead of the 21. So take your nut off. And the two washers. Now, as I said, on the front wheel, you can tell the difference by this part. And as you can see, this will sit on the splines, so we know this is a rear wheel. So I'll slide this on. And again, it would be the big spacer, the little spacer, and then the nut. Now, you want to make sure this is nice and tight. Now, when it's nice and tight, I want to grab a split pin, and again, push it through to the other side, and bend it around. So now we've got both the wheels on this side done. You want to repeat the exact same process on the other side, and then we can move on with our assembly process. So guys, moving on with your assembly process, we're now going to be installing your battery. What you're going to need for this will be crosshead screwdriver. So, starting off, you're going to want to reach under here, and you'll see a gold little lever. You want to pull that, lift the seat up, lift it up, and here's your battery. So what you're going to want to do, take your battery out, pull this tape off. So now you want to open your little bag, 2 little screws in, 2 little box. So now you've opened your little bag, what you want to do is you want to grab your 2 terminal blocks, put them in your terminals, like so. Now before we do anything, you want to make sure your ignition is off. Sometimes it does come on, just make sure it's off. So now you can grab your battery, slide it to there, like so. Now what you want to do, you want to grab 2 little screws, a screwdriver. We can be ready to tighten them. You want to grab your 2 wires here, your negative and your positive. The first one we're going to put on is your negative, which will be your black one. This is going to go to this side of the battery. I'm going to pull back the little cover, put the little screw in, get it in the hole. Now you want to make sure this is nice and tight. So once it's tight, you can then put a little rubber casing back over the top, like so. So now we can do the positive side, which again, I'll pull back the rubber casing, put the screw through the hole, and get it in the hole, like so. And again, tighten it up, and then put this back on top. So once that's on, what we're going to do is going to make sure the battery works. So, turn the key, when I pull this front brake here, well that's the rear actually, pull the rear brake, press the start button, and as you can see, or you can tell by the light, but the battery does work. So now you want to grab your seat, and this is as simple as getting this clip under this bill metal here. Be careful your wires, you kind of put it back about this far, push down and slide up, like that, and then you can give it a little push, slap, whatever. It should go in nicely. With that, you can now move on to the next part of your assembly. So guys, the next part of your assembly process is going to be your bar pad and bar pad cover. Nice and simple. Take your bar pad cover off, reveal your bar pad. And your bar pad will sit on this bar here. Just want to push it on. Nice and simple. Just relax. Your bar pad cover round on itself, and it'll connect in the middle, like so. As easy as that. So guys, moving on to the next part of your assembly process, we're going to be doing your wheel caps. Nice and simple. These are going to sit just on this gold spacer here. There's not really a technique to these. You kind of just have to wiggle and squeeze until they pop on like that. Same for the rear. Wiggle and squeeze, like so. You just want to do the exact same on the other side, and that's all your wheel caps on. So guys, moving on with your assembly, we're now going to be adjusting your lever angles so they're not looking as fine. All you're going to need for this is going to be 8mm spanner and a 5mm Allen key. So first of all, you want to grab your 8mm, start on the left here. You want to loosen off these bolts here. I think you only have to loosen one. So once you loosen that top one, just give it a push down. And ideally, you want your lever angles to be a flat arm, like so. You don't want it too low, but as you can see, it's not straight about. Right there is perfect. So once you're happy, try and make sure it's nice and tight. So now we've got this one, we'll move over to this one. So you're going to want to grab the 5mm Allen key. You want to loosen off this bolt here. I'll loosen that off. Again, you want it flat arm, like so. You can always compare it to the other side. So I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to tighten it up, like so. And with that, your lever angles are now all adjusted. So guys, now we've done our assembly, we can now move on to the most satisfying part of the build, which is going to be peeling off these stickers, see what she looks like underneath. Let's get peeling. So guys, now we've peeled off all our stick protectors. You can see how nice this quad really does look. But before you do take this thing for a ride, there's one more thing you're going to need to do, and that's going to be a full nut and bolt check. What that is, you're going to have to check every single bolt on the bike to make sure it's tight. So I'm going to run you through all the bolts now. Starting in the back here, you want to check your key shield on the exhaust. You want to check the bolts on the disc and the caliper. You want to check these two bolts here. You want to check your rear shock bolts. Moving across, you want to check your plastic bolts up here. One there as well. You want to check the bolts on the other exhaust shield. You want to check all the bolts on the engine here, all around, every single bolt you can see on the engine, just make sure you check. We have to move to the front. You want to check these bolts in here. You want to check these bolts, and the top of your shock here. You want to check the bottom bolts here, and the top bolts here. So moving on to the other side, again you want to check these bolts here. I'll move in onto the inside. Again, you've got your 3 plastic bolts here, and here, and here. And again, every single bolt you can see on the engine, just make sure you check it. I can't point at all of them, but every single bolt. You want to check your rear spring arm under here. And again, you want to check these two here. And then again, the bottom of your shock and the top of your shock. So guys, and with that, that's it. You've fully assembled your FunBikes VIPER 125. If you do have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I'll reply to them as quick as I can. But before you or your child does take this for a ride, please ensure you are wearing the correct protective equipment. For example, your helmet, gloves, suit, body armor, etc. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.